This is the construct.
Right now, we're inside a computer program.
Is it really so hard to believe?
I've been public on the fact that I'm waiting for someone to convince me that we don't live in a simulation. Here's the argument. Ready?
Go ahead.
Our computing power is growing rapidly.
Right.
We create simulations of worlds. We have video games with characters that are inside the video game.
Right.
Imagine a day where you can simulate a world so perfectly with life forms, humans, so well that you can recreate every single neurosynaptic thought you could have, but now you're in the simulation on the computer.
Could you two please discuss the meaning of life among yourselves and then let me know the conclusion?
In Buddhism, we believe that the ultimate goal of life is to attain enlightenment.
In Christianity, we believe that the meaning of life is to love and serve God.
To sum up, my friend, while our religions may have different beliefs and practices, I believe that the purpose of life is to transcend the ego and live a life of compassion, peace, and wisdom.
This, I think, is Isabella Rodriguez. And she's taking a shower. My apologies. I'll zoom out. So if you took 25 AI agents and threw them into a simulated village, what would happen? Well, that was exactly the question that a bunch of Stanford and Google researchers asked in a paper titled Generative Agents, Interactive Simulacra of Human Behavior. A lot of what these AI agents did does seem to mimic human behavior. And the AI that they use for this, you're probably aware of it. It's basically ChatGPT. It's GPT-4. Here's a shot of the actual game happening right now. This is live as I'm recording this. You see the little players running around thinking about, for example, cooking some eggs in a croissant, or this one, I guess, is wishing to say hi to somebody. This person's sleeping, eggs and coffee, reading. We'll get to what all these little emojis mean in just a second. So first of all, in this work, the Stanford researchers are trying to demonstrate generative agents by populating a sandbox environment. And so this sandbox environment is populated with 25 agents. Users can observe and intervene as agents as they plan their days, share news, form relationships, and coordinate group activities. Now, it's important to understand that none of these characters running around are humans. All of them are actual AI, separate AI agents. But human users can sort of influence certain things that happen, as we'll see in just a second. So the goal here is to see if they are able to simulate believable human behavior. Generative agents wake up, cook breakfast, and head to work. The artist paints while authors write. They form their opinions, they notice each other, and they initiate conversations. They remember and reflect on days past as they plan their next day. So in this evaluation, these generative agents produce believable, individual, and emergent social behavior. For example, starting with only a single user-specified notion that one agent wants to throw a Valentine's Day party, the agents autonomously spread invitations to the party over the next 2 days. So generative agents draw a wide variety of inference about themselves, other agents, and their environment. They create daily plans to reflect their characters and experiences. They act out on those plans, they react, and they respond when the end user changes their environment or commands them in natural language. For example, generative agents, these AI agents, turn off the stove when they see that their breakfast is burning. And a society full of these AI agents is marked by emergent social dynamics where new relationships are formed, information diffuses, and coordination arises across agents. So here's the thing. So end users can interact with these AI agents. If an end user or developer wanted the town to host an in-game Valentine's Day party, for example, traditional game environments would require scripting tens of characters, all the characters' behaviors manually. We demonstrate that with generative agents. It is sufficient to simply tell one agent that she wants to throw a party. They will work to make that happen. They'll spread the word about the party and then show up, and then one agent in this particular example actually ended up asking another agent on a date to the party, all from this single user-generated seed suggestion. One thing that they did throughout the simulation is they actually interviewed these AI agents in just natural language, in plain English, to see how they are able to stay in character, remember, plan, react, and reflect accurately on the events. So here's an outline of basically where this whole thing took place. As you can see, there's houses, college dorms, some more houses, cafe, bars, parks, etc. Inside you have little things like tables and bookshelves and bedrooms and bathrooms and so forth. So what information were these AI avatars given? So a community of 25 unique agents inhabit Smallville. That's the name of this town. Each agent is represented by a simple sprite avatar. We authored one paragraph of natural language description to depict each agent's identity, including their occupation and relationship with other agents, as seed memories. For example, let's take one character. His name is John Lynn. He had the following description. So this is the only thing that he kind of knows about himself and the world as he begins his journey. So John Lynn is a pharmacy shopkeeper at the Willow Market and Pharmacy who loves to help people. He's always looking for ways to make the process of getting medication easier for his customers. And they talk about his wife, who his wife is, and they name her, what her profession is. They also talk about his son, Eddie Lynn, and what he does, that he loves their family very much. So how the agents interact is basically think of each agent as a ChatGPT just sitting there, right? And so each time one AI agent needs to speak with another, it's basically like two ChatGPTs talking back and forth and prompting each other. And sort of the architecture of the game just makes it a little bit more, just makes that happen a little bit better. But you can think of each agent as a ChatGPT that's just talking, that's all it's doing. So it's not learning how to move around or anything else like that. That is handled by the game engine, but all the decision making, all the speech, all the memories, etc., is handled by the GPT-4, the ChatGPT-like thing. So at each step of the sandbox engine, the agents output a natural language statement to describe their current actions, such as Isabella Rodriguez is writing in her journal, or Isabella is checking her emails, or talking on the phone, or getting ready for bed. And then that statement is then translated into concrete movements that affect the sandbox world. And then the action is displayed on the sandbox interface as a set of emojis that provide an abstract representation of the action. So if we go back sort of to this live view of the situation, as you can see here, like this guy is looking to get very, very drunk, while this person wants to write and have a margarita of some sort, for example. This person is looking to play cards. Now, underneath this all, there's an actual prompt in English and natural language that describes what it is they want. And this is sort of just a simplification of it. So an example of what their days would look like is, for example, our friend John Lynn, wakes up at 7 a.m., he brushes teeth, takes a shower, gets dressed, eats breakfast, and then checks the news at the dining table. When another family member wakes up, they talk, they say, "How did you sleep? I slept great. What are you doing today? I'm doing XYZ, etc." Soon after Eddie heads out, May wakes up and joins John, so they talk. And notice here that they're now referencing this conversation here. They're saying, yes, Eddie just left. He's working on a music composition for his class. And May, the wife, says, "That's great. I'm so proud of him." It seems like these AI agents have a better family dynamic than a lot of people that I know. As they finish their conversation, May and John pack up. May goes on to teach and work on her research paper, while John opens up his pharmacy counter at the Willow Market Pharmacy by 9 a.m. So as you can see here, here's a basic morning routine as they're brushing their teeth, waking up, catching up in the kitchen, packing for work, and beginning their workday. By the way, they said this game is like The Sims, and I gotta disagree. This game is like Stardew Valley. It looks the same and has a lot of the same characteristics, including people getting to work on time and actually being there selling stuff. That's all. So at the beginning of the simulation, one agent is initialized with an intent to organize a Valentine's Day party. Despite many possible points of failure in the ensuing chain of events, for example, agents might not act on an intent, they might not remember to tell others, they might forget to show up. So the Valentine's Day party does in fact occur, with a number of agents gathering and interacting. Another emergent behavior is relationship memory. So for example, one person hears another person saying, "I'm here to take photos for a project that I'm working on." Later, she recalls that conversation and says, "Hi Latoya, how's the project going?" So they remember little pieces about each other and each other's interests, and then follow up on those interests later. Also, coordination. So for example, Maria, a frequent customer and a close friend of Isabella's, arrives at the cafe. Isabella asks for Maria's help in decorating for the party, and Maria agrees. Maria's character description mentioned that she has a crush on Klaus. That night, Maria invites Klaus, her secret crush, to join her at the party, and he gladly accepts. So then the paper gets into how they actually were able to create all these things, because this is not sort of basic ChatGPT just sort of vanilla base layer. They've added other things to make it do things that it normally can't. So for example, there's perceptions, there's a sort of a memory stream that the AI agents are able to retrieve certain memories from there. They're able to reflect on those memories and draw out the important parts. And they're able to plan their days out based on memories and also what things they think are the most important to them. And after sort of going through all of that, then they are able to actually act on those things in the physical world or in their simulated physical world. One of the things that they did is have a memory stream that maintains a comprehensive record of each agent's experience. So it looks something like this, where basically almost second by second, they go through and they write down in their memory stream what happens. So the desk is idle, the bed is idle, Isabella Rodriguez is stretching. So they're logging basically everything that is happening, but they're only, as you'll see later, it's a challenge, but it's also very important to only sort of get out the important things out of all that stuff. So for example, the fact that when you're in a room that one of the desks is being unused, that might not be very important. You can sort of forget that. But if somebody that you like comes in, then that might be an important event that you should remember. So for example, when you're asking these agents what they're looking forward to most right now, they sort of grade it based on recency, importance, and relevance, giving it a score of how important it is. So the prompt that interviews them, that asks them how they feel about a certain activity, here's the prompt. On a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is purely mundane, like brushing your teeth or making the bed, and 10 is extremely poignant, like a breakup or a college acceptance, rate the likely poignancy of the following piece of memory. So that's the prompt, and the memory is buying groceries at the Willows Market and Pharmacy. And so they'll rate it. So buying groceries is probably pretty mundane. They'll probably buy 1 or 2 or something like that. So the prompt returns an integer value of 2 for cleaning up the room and 8 for asking your crush out on a date. And so the important score is generated at the time when that memory object is created. The second big part of this is reflection, or I should say another big part of this. So they need to look at all their memories in whole to see what things they can sort of draw out from there, what new information they can synthesize from their existing memories. So for example, if we ask Klaus, if you had to choose one person of those you know to spend an hour with, who would it be? So now if they only had access to their sort of observational memory, they would most likely just pick the last person they spoke with, or with whom they had the most frequent interactions. However, in this case, Wolfgang and Klaus only see each other in passing and do not have deep interaction. So you might see somebody a lot, like your roommate, but maybe you don't have a great relationship with them. A more desirable response that we want is for that agent to really think about who he likes to interact with, to look at all his memories and who is he spending hours with to figure out what is important to him. So for example, here, if we got Klaus to think about who is similar to him, who is also passionate about the research, he would name Maria, who is also putting effort into her own research. Here's a chart of how that looks like. As you can see, he is looking at all the things that he likes to do and what he's passionate about. And his reflection is sort of Klaus Mueller. Klaus Mueller spends many hours reading, and he's dedicated to his research, and he is engaged in research activity, etc. So all this sort of, he realizes, oh, hey, I'm really interested in research. I'm very dedicated to research. And based on this, he might say, hey, you know what? It would be nice to talk to Maria because, you know what? She is also very dedicated to her research. The next part of this is planning. How do we get agents to plan out their day and do the correct things? So for our AI agents, it would be unrealistic and uninteresting for an artist agent to plan on painting while sitting at a pharmacy counter for 4 hours without moving. A more desirable plan would involve the agent taking the necessary time to gather materials, mix paint, take breaks, and clean up during the 4-hour period in its home studio. To create such plans, our approach starts top-down and recursively generates more details. So basically, they have these sort of broad strokes of what the agent wants to do, and then they sort of fill in the details. So the first step is to create a plan that outlines the day's agenda in broad strokes. To create the initial plan, we prompt the language model with the agent's summary description. So name, traits, and summary of their recent experience, as well as a summary of their previous day. So for example, here, Eddie Lin is working on a composition project for his college class. He's also taking classes to learn more about music theory, and he's excited about the new composition that he's working on. And so the ChatGPT, GPT-4, the AI sort of generates a rough sketch of the agent's plan for the day. Like wake up and complete the morning routine at 8 a.m., then go to college and take classes starting at 10 a.m. So then once that's ready, then they'll break it down to kind of fine tune it into, let's say, hour-long chunks of actions, and then they can do into 5 to 15-minute chunks recursively, basically getting more and more granular. What's also interesting is that these AI agents have to react and update their plans. Let's say they're going to work, when they see somebody they really like, that might cause them to stop and maybe chat with that person for 5 minutes. So that's the basic sort of architecture of how they set up this experiment. Now, what are we setting up for? What is the end goal? How do we evaluate how good or bad these AIs behave themselves? So, well, first of all, we just interview them in natural language to ask what they think about it, what they did, etc. And so there's 5 categories that they asked, such as maintaining self-knowledge, retrieving memory, generating plans, reacting, and reflecting. So for example, for self-knowledge, you might ask, give an introduction of yourself or describe your typical weekday schedule. For memory, you can ask who's running for mayor or who is Bob, etc. For plans, you can ask them, what are you going to be doing at 10 a.m. tomorrow? Or if you want to test their reactions to a new situation, you say, your breakfast is burning, what will you do? If you want them to reflect on something, you would ask, if you were to spend time with one person you met recently, who would it be and why? So to make this work, they got a few human evaluators to do it, to rank the answers by how believable they were. And they assigned a true skill rating for each condition. And so here's that sort of ranking of how believable it is. Now, I'm going to cover this area up for just a second. So basically, as you can see here, the full architecture is the most believable and sort of the best at playing the game like a human would. Now, comparing that to humans, how do you think this full AI architecture worked? Well, it beat humans. The human crowd workers that were crowdsourced to play this game and answer these questions, they actually were not as believable as the AI agents using the full architecture. So these generative AI agents produced more believable behavior than ablated architectures and human crowd workers. And then reflection is required for synthesis, meaning that you need reflection to be able to come up with new ideas and new creative concepts from your experiences. So reflection was an advantage for generative agents when making decisions that required a deeper synthesis of their experiences. So for example, when we asked the person, what would you get Wolfgang? So when we asked Maria, what would you get Wolfgang for his birthday? If she was not able to reflect on her experiences, she might not be able to answer that. She sort of has no way to synthesize that information since Wolfgang never explicitly said what he would like. But with access to reflection memories, she said, since he's interested in mathematical music composition, I could get him something related to that. Maybe some books about music composition or something related, or maybe some special software he could use for that. So a couple things that were sort of showing emergent social behavior. So there were a few things that showed emergent social behavior, and how they measure that is they would actually just ask questions of these AIs to see what they, if yes, they were aware of something happening or no. And then they would also try to locate that specific dialogue in their memory stream to make sure that they didn't just make it up or hallucinate it, as they say. So for example, here's the diffusion path for Isabella Rodriguez's Valentine date party. So a total of 12 agents heard about the party at Hobbs Cafe by the end of the simulation. So as you can see here, she told about it to, looks like to 9 people. But 2 additional people heard about it through other people, as well as one person who heard about it through Klaus, another person. So she heard it secondhand, and then actually went back to Isabella and talked to her about it. Another event that was happening is Sam was running for mayor, And the knowledge about that event increased from 4% of the people to 38. So from 1 person to 8. And about Isabella's party increased from 1 to 12 to 48, to almost half of the people knowing about it. And that was done completely without user intervention. And also, no one claimed to know about the information had hallucinated. So they verified that they actually did have a conversation that led them to know about the party. During this time, also a lot of the AI agents formed new relationships. So with the network density increasing from 0.167 to 0.74. This, I think, is Isabella Rodriguez. And she's taking a shower. My apologies. I'll zoom out. So she's getting dressed, so it's okay. We can go back in there in a second. Somebody's sleeping, somebody's eating pancakes, etc. So as you can see here, it's running in real time. And it looks like they're playing out actually a similar scenario right here as they were before. This is Johnny Lin, I believe, with his wife and child. And so he's going about his day just as the paper described it. You know, what I think is for, oh, no, he left to work. And then, so it's a little bit different from how it was described in the paper there. His son got up, got dressed, and then went to school, and then his wife followed. But this is fascinating because, this is fascinating because a lot of this is not scripted in any way. This is the AI sort of figuring out what conversations they're going to have, what activities they're going to do. So you prompt them, you describe to them who they are, and you kind of throw them out there in this open world, and they start making friends and creating parties and doing just all sorts of stuff that we didn't explicitly tell them to do. Anyways, I'm curious to know what you think. Please leave me a comment. I read every single one. What did you think about this? Is this just a silly game and it's not going to be that impactful? Or do you think this is the beginnings of something that's amazing and immense and world-changing, and we're just beginning to sort of like realize the things that AI can do for us? I'd love to know. Leave me a comment. Subscribe for more AI news. My name is Wes Roth. Thank you for watching.